Good afternoon, everyone. So we're just waiting for a few people to join. So let's give it like maybe around 1 minute. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Janina, and I'm thrilled to be here with you today alongside our operations manager, Michelle. So welcome to today's webinar, Best Practices for Onboarding and Offboarding Users. Today, we will learn best practices for onboarding and offboarding users to streamline system management. So we will review configuration of new users, assignment of rights, and other important user settings, such as user management, approval systems, e-signature configuration, and review of disabling users, user licensing, and tips for efficient user management. After this webinar, you'll be able to configure new users, copy user rights, assign and remove user application license rights, manage users efficiently. As always, we want you to get the most out of today's session. So if you have any questions at any point, don't hesitate to ask. Whether you need us to slow down, revisit a point, or dive deeper into something, just drop your questions into the chat and we'll make sure to answer them. So let's dive in and make the most of your onboarding and offboarding users. Thank you.
Thank you, Janina. Good afternoon, everybody. As Janina mentioned, my name is Michelle. And for this call, I will try to walk through and talk through the buttons that I'm actually clicking on for anybody that is new to doing any system configuration as a system admin. So the first thing here you'll notice I'm already logged into WeEstimate. And to do any user configuration, you will need to go into Tools, System Configuration. And from in here, you will get the tabs here for user setup. And this is where you will manage any user configuration. Notice that this drop down here for system configuration is available to me since my user is a system admin and I was provided those rights under a group that I have been added to as this user. So first thing here, when you are setting up a user, you always want to make sure that any user that you are creating, if you're building from scratch or you're building as a copied user, you want to make sure that the user is part of a group. Being a part of a group is what is going to allow the user certain access to specific features of the application as well as specific settings. So for instance, if you're a system administrator, you want to make sure that the group that you are a part of has access to system configuration. And anybody that is making changes to the program wide settings, you want to make sure that you have access to program options. So I will actually go into that in a little bit. But the first thing I do want to do is typically when you are first deploying, the project manager that you're assigned to will usually give you that initial data load and load certain users that into the application. So usually you don't see that initial setup. So when you are initially setting up from scratch, a salesperson or a user, any kind of user on the application, you can always click new and fill out the data here on the right hand side. And also again, give them access to groups. The groups we've already gone through in a previous webinar, but again, I will revisit that before we get off the call today. So again, filling in this information. Usually, if you are connected to an accounting system, this field user mapping would be available to drop down and select. If you are not connected to an accounting system, this should not be available to you. It would actually be just an empty area here, so it wouldn't show up. So if you do see something a little different than what you're seeing on my screen here, just understand it's most likely due to your integration or no integration to an accounting system. Um, Next thing here is there are different tabs. So I'll go through this user information tab. So you have your login information. This is where, of course, as you can see, your email address or the user's email address, a user ID, password, and then there's this associated eSign user. For those of you that are using DocuSign, you will have the ability to have a user associated in WeSuite to your DocuSign user or to a DocuSign user. The purpose of having this is when you submit a an invite or send out an invite, the invitation would come from or look like it comes from the associated eSign user versus the main account. So for instance, with WeSuite, if I associated Michelle to the user that I'm creating. The invite would come from Michelle Domino Burrows on as an alias versus no reply at wesuite.com. So it is nice to have this kind of association. Just keeping in mind that DocuSign, their plans, I think, involve a per user subscription. So just something to take note of when you are going through the DocuSign process if you don't have DocuSign yet and you have WeSuite. Okay. Once you have that figured out here, you can also, under General, we'll go to the General tab. You have three checkboxes here. You have Enable Account, and Enable Account just allows for the user to have access in totality of the application. If you have this selected, they will display under the active user list. And when you when you keep them active, even though they're no longer with your company, for instance, you are able to still search on their jobs and you'll be able to either work on the jobs or you can pass them to a new owner. So it's good to have the account enabled, turned on until all jobs are closed under the user if they leave company. People manager, this checkbox activates this tab, which we'll visit in a little bit. People manager, keeping in mind it's not necessarily that a person is a manager of other users. It's meaning that they have the ability to view other jobs for certain people. So that is it's or even edit things like that. It's not necessarily that they are a manager role in the company. Then you have the project engineer. For those of you that use an engineer to review jobs, by selecting this, you allow for the user to be displayed under as an engineer here. So I'll just to explain where that is, so you can see it in the new project screen. You could have them show up here as an engineer, and in a job you can have them show up under the status tab once that opens up here. So this can be where you can also assign if you don't assign it at the initial creation of the project. Okay. So moving forward here, the next thing is we have the approvals tab. For those of you that are using the approvals module, this is where you are assigning the pre-approval and or post-approval to the user. Notice that there are also two checkboxes that are associated to post and pre-approval. You have the region priority, which if you have certain regions that require a specific approval system, you can configure it as such. Same idea if you have it for an office priority, keeping in mind that you cannot have both selected at the same time. It's one or the other. Um, Also, if let's say if you have one or the other priority that's assigned, but let's say you have region priority assigned, but the region that the user is quoting out of doesn't have a pre-approval, it will then default to whatever pre-approval is assigned to the user. So it will go in different tiers. The next tab here is your quotas. So it's what's nice about quotas is you're able to configure them, but it is at a quarterly basis, which will eventually um, add up. It would eventually add up here into your annual sales and your annual RMR. The next thing here is this is if you have dealer ally, you have the ability to assign a user um, to be able to use the dealer ally integration. Regional profile. This is actually for anybody that is using regionalized systems. This is typically focused on our Sedona clients who have multiple branches in a single Sedona instance. And then lastly is your licensing. So your licensing, I'll show you a user that will have this all filled out. But licensing is where you will see um, all of the applications and integrations that a user can utilize. By having these all checked or unchecked, it will allow a user to use certain features and functionalities. So let me just click cancel here for a second and I'll open a real person here. So as you can see here, Kevin Smith, we have these modules here that are associated. So right now we have the ADI, Dealer Ally, Quote Anywhere, Sales Forms, Site Survey, We Estimate, We Opportunity, We Speak, Go, and This Intelligence. So as you can see here, Kevin has Quote Anywhere, Site Survey, We Estimate, We Opportunity, and We Speak, Go selected. That means this user, when he logs in to any of these, he'll be able to log in. But if I, for instance, only had Kevin be a We Opportunity only user, I would uncheck Quote Anywhere and We Estimate, and I would just simply keep We Opportunity open or checked off. One of the things to note is about these modules is when you check and uncheck these, these numbers will be read by us, and so we'll be able to see how many seats you're using per application. So it's very important to make sure that if you are making changes to your user seats, so for instance, you have 5 We Opportunity users, but then you've added more users, you want to make sure that We Opportunity is selected for 2 reasons. First, that they can actually fully access We Opportunity, and the second, so your head count for user seats is accurate. All right. Before I go into the People Manager tab, does anybody have any questions? And am I going too fast? If there's anything you want me to go through again, I'd be happy to go through that. All right. So just moving on here, just going to the next tab over. So again, so I'm editing my user, John Appleseed, who is who has People Manager rights. And if I go into my People Manager, I'll go in here and I can expand my regions and my offices to see which users or user I need to be able to have access to, as well as do other have other features for that. So, for instance, under People Manager, there are the names of the other users that have a checkbox, an outermost checkbox that's associated to them. And expanding this, you'll see there are checkboxes that are associated to that user. So for instance, if I check off this box for Tracy Black, that means this user will display under my employees. So if I look for Tracy Black, here she is. Um, just going back to my system configuration. Approvals, what this is doing, approvals will allow me to be an approver for Tracy Black if there is a group that I am a part of that can approve for in Tracy's approvals, okay, that she's a part of. Read only will, by having this selected, I'll be able to see Tracy's jobs and open them, but I'm not going to be able to edit them. You might want to have this available for users that are maybe shadowing another user, or maybe just team members that just need to have visibility but not make changes. So that could be a safety for that. Bin passing, that means I can bin pass or pass my projects to Tracy. That would be available if I were to take a bin, right clicking it, and then clicking Pass Manager. Tracy would show up here to pass. Keeping in mind when bin passing, you are not passing just a job, you are passing every job that is underneath that bin or project. Splits, splits and manage, those have to do with commissions if you're using the commission module. Splits means that I have the ability to split my commission with Tracy. Managed would be that I would be considered a manager to Tracy. So if there are any commissions that she has, there could potentially be a manager commission where, for instance, I can get 1% commission on Tracy's jobs just because I'm her manager. Um, and then the commissions checkbox here. This just allows me to have a tab in the estimate screen here. When I open up her jobs, I can see what her commission is. Just coming back up here, accounting import. This will allow me to do any accounting export from WeEstimate to prepare it. Again, also that does pop up a tab, a separate tab for accounting export when a job is won. Then you have approval emails. Approval emails coincides with approvals. If Tracy submits a job for approval, I could potentially get an email. Then, and if I have that unchecked, I won't get the email. Master override will allow me to override any of the approvals. Job sharing allows me to create a job for Tracy and where I could potentially co-own it. I could own it primarily, but the bin as a whole could potentially be just Tracy's. So that's what job sharing is. Keeping in mind job sharing, there is a setting that needs to be turned on to have this functionality. And then the summary report email, you have the ability when you are sending for approval, the summary report can be emailed with that approval. Uh, it looks like there's a question we have here.
So,
Okay.
trying to delete user who has left company, it says estimates still assigned. How do I find those estimates so I can reassign?
Okay. So what you would want to do if you are if you're going to take a user out. So we don't recommend deleting a user. We recommend just disabling them. But if you are trying to get their jobs back, this is what I was referring to with keeping their account enabled, but unchecking their licensing so you don't get charged for their seat. By keeping this enabled, and making sure your user has the outside checkbox at the very least next to their name, you'll be able to go in and find their jobs under My Employees. If you're going to change ownership, you will want to make sure that bin passing is selected. So I'll just use this as an example. So let's just say Tracy is Tracy Black is no longer with the company. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to disable the licensing for the user, and I'm going to keep enable account. And I'm just going to save, keep this. Oh, sorry. I meant to keep this enabled. I got to go to Tracy Black's user. Sorry. Yeah. So I'm going to go to Tracy Black's user first. Uh, where is she? So I'm going to search for her, Tracy. All right, so I'm going to go here. Again, going to her user, keeping the account enabled, but taking out the licensing, right? And now I'm saving that. And so what I'll be able to do is go to My Employees. And if Tracy had jobs, well, let's look for this. Going to change this to much older dates. Let's see if she has jobs. So from here, see, I'm still able to see this, but Tracy's user is not active, right? Um, and you'll notice here, right? I can't even bin pass to her because she's not even active any longer. I can, on the other hand, if I go to my user once more, John, let's make me the ability to pass to Tammy. Okay. So let's just refresh one more time. Going to Tracy's here, right click the bin, pass manager, and there's Tammy that I could assign it to. Um, is there any other questions? Did I go too quickly for anybody? And of course, we can always delve further into the little bits and pieces of each tab. And we could always schedule some time. So we could figure something else out. Like if we need further instruction, right? Next thing here, if we go into our thresholds. So for instance, again, this is for my user. If there were any thresholds that were barring me from, maybe I shouldn't exceed, $500,000 sell price, right? Or I can't sell less than $10. These thresholds can be set. The same thing goes for any margin, as well as any upper thresholds for these items here. So additional hours for labor, the burden percent, labor margins, part discounts, part margins, RCM, which is rate creation multiple for those of you that might not know what that is, and then RMR discount and RMR value. Once you have all of that information in, you want to click Save Thresholds. The next tab here is your grid rights. Grid rights, keep in mind, can be associated to users as well as the system wide. So if you want the system wide change to take effect, you want to make changes to tools, program options, global grid rights, but you can, so here is your global grid rights. But again, if you want to be very specific to a specific user, you can do it at the user level. One thing to take note of is when you are making these changes, the last place that you make the change is the one that will take precedence. So for instance, if I make a change here where I say I want to show a sales description, right? This will show on my grid. But if I then tomorrow morning go into program options and uncheck visible for sales description, then my user will no longer see sales description. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing to say. Um, you'll notice here too, there's a drop down where it says equipment, labor hours. So all of these grids are the ones that are available in your jobs on the lower half of the screen. All right. Next thing is your labor rights. So labor rights are very specific to your thresholds. So again, it's related to your thresholds on what you can sell at a high cost or low cost, and lower sell and upper sell. Uh, Next thing is your commissions. So for those of you using the commission module, this is where you would assign the commission plan that's associated to the user. As you can see here, I have the basic pay plan. And if you assign a commission plan, make sure to use commission plan rates. If you use default rates, it's expecting you to have this information filled in. All right. Does anybody have any questions on these tabs here on the right? All right. So one last thing here, before I show you how to create a user by copying. Um, Access is going to be important. This again is controlled by groups. So these are all groups in our system. The other piece is for those of you using the approvals module. If the user that you are configuring is an approver, you will not just need to give them access, but you also need to make sure that they are part of the approval group that they would be approving as. Okay. So again, approvals need to be part of the group as well as the approvals tab group. All right. For those of you that are just starting to build up, maybe you're hiring new people on the team, the best practice is to find a user that's already existing, if you that will closely match what the new user's role would be. Okay. So for instance, in this case, I have a new system admin. So I see John Appleseed is going to be um, the best person that I would copy. So I could simply right click the name, and you'll see here there's a copy. There's a copy here. So I would click copy, and once I click copy, you'll also be able to see that if I want to paste, I can paste it within this office, or I can go into another office here and I can paste here. So once I go in here, I'm going to say, let's see, Dwayne Johnson, system admin, and your phone number, whatever the phone number is going to be here. But if you don't have a phone number, usually you can just put in dashes. As long as these three are filled in, though, there has to be some kind of information in here for it to go through. And again, if you have Sedona connected or an accounting system, you need to select a user. And then the email address. The email address, keep in mind, has to be unique. Okay. If the if the email address exists, it's not going to save the user. Okay. And you can always put in a password that is generic. They will be able to change it. So I'll show you where that is here. So I have all of my information in here. I'm going to click add and we will have that. That's where what you should be able to do. Um, the next thing here is again, making sure that those users are part of groups. So I'm just going to move forward to that. So again, groups are here. Each group, keep in mind, has their own set of rights and access. So for instance, a system admin will have many of these selected, while a person that is capturing leads will not have access to user configuration. They won't have access to program options, or they may not even have access to the estimate screen because that group solely lives in We Opportunity, right? When you create a group, you also want to make sure that that group has a region selected or multiple regions selected. By not having this selected for a specific group, you, for instance, will not allow them to select a region and an office, and you won't be able to get them to send or create estimates, right? For those that are quote creators, all right. Um, so this looks like I'm pretty much done here for any of those of you that have any questions that that pertain to copying, creating from scratch, deactivating a user or taking out the licensing, um, assigning approval systems, no takers. So one of the things, if you noticed, when I went in and I did sharing, so I went and I clicked new project. I don't know if you guys caught that, but you'll notice there is a pop-up here that says you're about to create an estimate for Tracy Black. If you approve for this user, you may not be able to approve this estimate depending on the approval system setup. Do you wish to continue? And I'll say yes, just so I could explain to you what's happening here. So typically you'll see your step one and step two. That's a very common screen. But on step three, you'll notice that there's this estimate ownership that's come up. Now, this system that we have has job sharing as a setting turned on, and you do get these three pieces of or these three options. First one is that Tracy Black is the owner, and I'll not be the shared owner. So that means that I'm creating a job. So, for instance, let's say I am assisting somebody with, I'm assisting Tracy with this job. I'm building it for her because we're on the phone, but I don't have anything else to do with it, but kind of just helping her with the job creation. But I'm not going to get commission on it. I don't have anything to do with it on that end. I we'll have Tracy Black as the owner. If I am the owner, I can also be the owner of the estimate, meaning I am the sole owner of the job. For instance, I'm creating a change order for Tracy, and because I am a system engineer and I end up getting credit for the change order or the job. Um, so I'll be the only person that's getting commission on it. It's going to show up under Tracy's, um, under Tracy's bin, but it's going to show up under my proposals node, and I will be the one getting the primary credit for that. The last selection here or option is that Tracy and I will co-own the job. She and I could potentially split the commission. The job, once created, will show up under my proposals, and will also show up under mine. So that's the other difference that you would see. All right. Does anyone have any questions on the job sharing, the bin passing, approvals, commissions, commission splitting, um, DocuSign association? I think that that's a big one that many don't realize we have. So, with DocuSign, just revisiting DocuSign association, again, having the DocuSign associated user with WeSuite, if you're using DocuSign, it's again coming from the DocuSign username, not the main account. There is a secondary step when you do associate the user, which is to make sure that they are authenticating their user. That involves a few steps. And the reason why is DocuSign, for security purposes, DocuSign needs to make sure that the user is granting permission to utilize this third party to integrate and send via API the invitations. Uh, so does hopefully this was helpful for everybody. And of course, if there's any information that you need, let us know. You can always email us or chat with us at the wesuite.com site. You could email us at wesupport at wesuite.com. Any when you are submitting any support tickets, just please keep in mind if you're having any issues, please have a brief description of what is occurring. If there's anything job related, please submit the job number as well as any steps upon receiving an issue or running into an issue. All right. All right. Well, if there's any questions you guys think about after the call, for sure, please send those over. And Janina, I think you could take it up for you.
Sure. So thank you again for joining us today, everyone. We hope you've learned some good information that you can take back for yourselves and share with your team. And if you need to refer to this webinar again, it will be posted on our website by this time tomorrow on our website under Education, Training, and Webinars. And don't forget to mark your calendars for our upcoming webinars this July. So on the 8th of July, we'll discuss Scope Anywhere and the site survey. And on the 15th of July, we'll have the Sales User Training Engineering Review, Job Approvals, and Commissions. Thank you, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.